Who would want a beautiful girl as a roommate who can also cast spells? Although every time she uses magic, it usually results in big trouble. Luckily, there's Otogi, her familiar, to clean up the mess. One day, Otogi was harassed by a gang on the street because he had once mocked the leader's hairstyle. 4 of them attacked, but Otogi toyed with them like playing with dogs. Still, he ended up going home injured, telling his father he lost on purpose. His father was non-committal and suddenly mentioned Nico, triggering painful childhood memories for Otogi. Back then, Nico, the little witch, often caused him trouble. Fortunately, she had moved to a witch's sanctuary for training. Now, her training was complete, and she wanted Otogi to be her familiar. Otogi spat out his ramen in surprise. Aren't witches supposed to have animals as familiars? His father explained that their ghost family also had the lineage of familiars, and that their family had an ancient pact with Nico's family. Rules must be followed. Otogi slammed the table in frustration. Why not go yourself? His father would have loved to be the familiar for the high school witch, but he had to go abroad for a long trip starting tomorrow. It had to be Otogi who took on the role, essentially as a bodyguard since Nico was moving back alone. Otogi, also about to live alone, realized they could live together and support each other. He dreaded the intense life ahead, wondering what the clumsy witch had become by now. Just then, Nico crashed through his window on a broomstick, wishing him an early happy new year. She had indeed turned into a beautiful girl and said she was keeping their promise to meet again as an accomplished witch. Otogi was unimpressed and started sweeping up the glass with a broom. Nico was charmed by his dependable demeanor. Imagining their future under the same roof, she daydreamed about potential comic-like scenarios, while Otogi just kept cleaning. After collecting all the glass shards, he prepared to dispose of them. Nico saw this as an opportunity to show off her magic. She asked Otogi to provide something precious as a medium. Otogi handed over his favorite classic mug. The glass was fixed, but his beloved mug broke. The spell worked by consuming the emotional value placed on the object. Otogi was even more upset now. Why should his treasured item be sacrificed to fix glass Nico broke? Nico felt guilty and useless, still always relying on Otogi. Seeing her like this, Otogi softened. After all, she had fixed the glass, and her magic was impressive. He complimented her, capturing the heart of the beautiful girl eager to show off more spells. She tried a spell to make herself thin and flat, and turned herself into a paper-thin person. Unable to control her body, she floated out the window. Otogi chased after her. While floating, Nico vomited paper flowers. Despite Otogi's efforts, he couldn't catch paper-thin Nico. She crashed into a window and got stuck in a crevice, unable to move. The magic was about to wear off. If she returned to normal in that tight spot, she would indeed become very thin and flat. Just then, the same troublemaker approached Otogi again, revealing that his house was nearby. Otogi urgently asked him to bring out his family's vacuum cleaner. The troublemaker was pleased, as he had always disliked Otogi, who had beaten him up before. Otogi's father had made him apologize for that incident, leading the troublemaker to target Otogi repeatedly. After being advised by his father, Otogi no longer fought back, enduring their bullying. He grew to dislike his own ghostly powers, feeling they only caused unnecessary conflict and could not protect others. His father then sent him to learn their ghost clan's ancient techniques to better control his powers. At that time, Otogi thought of Nico. Now reunited, Otogi was determined to protect Nico. He punched a wall to rescue paper-thin Nico trapped inside. Just as he pulled her out, she returned to normal. The two embraced tightly. The troublemaker recognized Nico and angrily demanded they fix his wall. Otogi had already planned for this. He asked Nico to restore the wall using her magic, with the troublemaker's cherished hair as the cost. The wall was fixed, and the troublemaker ended up bald. On their way home, the two stopped at a mall to buy essentials. The load was heavy, so Nico cast a spell to make everything super light. Otogi then asked Nico if she planned to reveal her witch identity and live openly in this town. If so, Many people would seek her out. Nico was ready, as using magic to help people is a fundamental rule for magicians. New witches need social interaction and must use their magic for people to stabilize their powers. Being alone could expose her to dark forces, so revealing her witch identity was also a form of training. As her familiar, Otogi naturally supported her. Just after their conversation, a nearby building caught fire with a girl trapped on top. Nico immediately flew to the rescue on her broom, with Otogi following. They urged the girl to jump down. However, the broom couldn't support the weight of 3 people over a busy road. In a panic, Nico cast a lightness spell on Otogi. Although the broom flew again, Otogi became frivolous, a side effect of the spell changing his personality. As they casually discussed magic, the rescued girl couldn't understand a word. Otogi bluntly told her that Nico was a witch, and he was a ghost. Still, carrying 3 was a strain. So as they nearly fell, Nico also cast the spell on herself, making them both light. Though they saved the girl, she was unsure what to say. Eventually, Otogi and Nico made it home with their purchases, feeling unusually heavy. Nico checked her spellbook and realized it was a rebound effect from the lightness spell ending. Both were overwhelmed by gravity and felt emotionally heavy until they returned to normal that evening. Nico formally greeted Otogi on her knees in bed, thanking him for his help. Otogi had indeed controlled his ghostly powers well, likely due to extensive training. His father had once mentioned a prophecy that Nico would face a disaster within a year, foreseen by her mother, a prophetic witch. Although details were unclear, the solution divined was that the protector would be her familiar. Thus, Otogi's mission was to protect Nico, and their life together as roommates began. Otogi had to deal with an early morning confession from his childhood friend, Nico, but he was too dense to understand her feelings. He simply reminded her to change out of her pajamas before leaving her room, since they were alone together, which only set Nico's heart racing. She thought Otogi was looking at her with lecherous eyes, and daydreamed without restraint, while Otogi, not understanding, just respected her feelings. The day school started, they found themselves in the same class. Nico was excited, which made Otogi worry about her accidentally revealing her witch identity. He kept an eye on her, distracted by her every move. Nico noticed other students interacting and stole glances at Otogi, only to see him watching her. She thought he might confess on the first day of school, which made her both nervous and expectant. However, Otogi was just reminding her not to tell classmates that she was a witch during her introduction and to avoid using magic at school. Disappointed, Nico verbally agreed. Their homeroom teacher, an otaku who almost revealed her hobby of watching anime, asked everyone to introduce themselves. Otogi reminded Nico again not to mention she was a witch. Reluctantly, she agreed, knowing it was for her own good, due to a prophecy of impending disaster. After the class introductions, which showcased a variety of talents, Nico's focus remained solely on Otogi. She noticed he misspelled a word and tried to erase it with her mechanical pencil's eraser, which broke off, leaving only a small piece. Panicking, Otogi was disheartened, but Nico, not wanting to see her crush upset, thought of using a spell to enlarge the remaining eraser. The magic could enlarge the whole object if cast from the palm, or just a specific part if cast from the fingertips. Nico chose the latter, but accidentally hit Otogi's cowlick, causing it to grow rapidly. The teacher was the only one who noticed, facing the biggest challenge of her career. Meanwhile, Nico realized her mistake and tried to reverse the spell, needing to hit the exact spot again. Unfortunately, she missed and enlarged Otogi's head instead. Luckily, he was still unaware, and the class was distracted by another student's introduction. As Otogi's turn approached, Nico tried to cover up by pretending to be cute. Otogi, now with an enlarged arm, pretended his left hand was mysteriously painful, claiming to be a person with a special mission. His introduction effectively doomed his dating prospects at school for the next 3 years. After an awkward moment, Otogi asked Nico to reverse the spell. Just as she was about to cast it, The teacher called her name, causing her to accidentally make herself giant with a spell from her palm. Everyone witnessed the anomaly. With no choice left, Nico admitted she was a witch. It turned out the school already knew from her mother. The teacher explained that Nico would continue her witch training while at school. Disheartened, Nico had hoped to make some friends through her introduction, but now doubted anyone would want to approach her. As the first day of school ended this way, Otogi and Nico were about to head home when two female classmates invited Nico to a diner. Otogi encouraged her to interact more with her peers. The three girls went together, but encountered a group of rowdy youths at the entrance. Kara, a cool girl, scolded them and led Nico and Kukumi into the diner. Kara and Kukumi were most interested in Nico's magic, and Nico was happy to have peers who wanted to be friends with her. This was her first time at a family restaurant with friends. Kukumi shared that she had a similar experience in middle school when Kara approached her to go to a family restaurant, and they became good friends. However, another reason Kara wanted to befriend Nico was actually because of Otogi. When she learned that Otogi and Nico were childhood friends and even lived together, she was shocked. Nico quickly clarified that she and Otogi were not dating, but she wasn't eager to introduce Otogi to Kara and deliberately spoke poorly of him, claiming he was unreliable, bad at fighting, and self-centered. Unbeknownst to her, at that very moment, Otogi was outside, single-handedly dealing with the troublemakers who had been eyeing them. He overheard Nico's harsh words about him. The next morning, Nico was surrounded by new classmates curious about her identity as a witch. Otogi was also encircled by a group of odd characters, mainly interested in experiencing Nico's magic. They knew Otogi was close to her and wanted him to relay messages, which was unnecessary because Nico couldn't help showing off when complimented. She asked everyone what magic they wanted to see and recommended a spell that altered gravity to the walls. She demonstrated it, and when the teacher entered the classroom, she found students sitting on all sides, making it look like something out of a fantasy. The teacher reminded everyone not to pull such pranks again and started the class, which involved a group bonding activity. The students scoffed at the teacher's suggestion of playing an old game like The Wind Blows, because they had a witch who could enhance the game with magic. Despite Otogi's objections, the whole class ended up on the sports field, where Nico set up a boundary and explained the rules before letting everyone fly. The students were thrilled. Some cautiously tried flying, others dove in with full force, and some enjoyed leisure time in the air. A few boys performed stunts where the girls could see them, and the more imaginative ones started playing a Dragon Ball game. The teacher really wanted to join, but had to maintain her dignity as an educator. While other students were concerned about how high everyone was flying, Otogi was worried about Nico exhausting her magic. Nico said she could recharge her magic with a red bean bun and was happy to see everyone enjoying themselves. She had always wanted to share the joy of flying, a wish granted from her witch heritage. Otogi couldn't understand her happiness. Being born a ghost didn't seem joyful to him. Nico suggested he reveal his true nature to everyone, but Otogi refused, remembering how his friends had shunned him in the past due to his identity. Suddenly, a truck accidentally entered Nico's magical circle on the edge of the field and started flying, becoming unstable in the air. Otogi rushed to support the truck with his strength. The other students were stunned. Nico tried to explain it was her magic at work, but Otogi stopped her, choosing to be honest, and started to reveal his true identity as a ghost. Before he could finish, the crowd rushed forward, excitedly praising Otogi's strength. Given that witches existed, and Nico's childhood friend was a ghost, it didn't seem so extraordinary anymore. Thus, the true identities of Otogi and Nico were revealed on the first day of school. Nico's mother was conducting a prophecy by matching numbers in a book to specific pages and lines. Linking the selected words together, she completed the prophetic sentence, which foretold that dogs and raindrops will bring disaster. Meanwhile, Otogi made himself a cup of coffee after waking up, enjoying his happiest moments during the leisure of a holiday. However, Nico tried to seduce him early in the morning by casually walking out of her room in just her pajamas. Unfortunately, Otogi was not swayed and reminded her that even on a day off, one shouldn't be too lazy, joking that she had turned into an old maid. Upon reflection, Nico realized all her clothes were nearly the same, so changing wouldn't make much difference. This realization struck her, and she decided to put more effort into her dressing by using magic to replicate clothes from a fashion magazine, although the backs of the clothes appeared transparent because the magazine only showed fronts. Nico didn't care and strutted out to show Otogi her new outfit. However, Otogi remained uninterested and was about to pour himself more coffee when Nico insisted he stay seated and approached him sideways like a crab, careful not to show her back. She demanded he comment on her new outfit. Otogi, unimpressed, responded nonchalantly and asked if she planned to go out, suggesting they leave now if so. Nico was horrified at the thought of going out dressed like that. Otogi didn't understand why she couldn't wear the outfit outside. Blushing, Nico admitted she just wanted him to see it. Otogi then confessed he preferred her usual attire, finding it lighter and more elegant. He affirmed that people look best in clothes they love, making Nico feel better. She rushed to change, forgetting about the transparent back, which momentarily unsettled Otogi, causing his hand to tremble with his cup. After Nico changed back into her own clothes, Otogi complimented her, saying she looked stunning, which greatly pleased Nico. Unexpectedly, Otogi moved closer, wanting a better look, as if he were about to kiss her. Nico puckered up in anticipation, only to realize Otogi was just interested in her clothes. He even recognized it as an antique dress, which indeed had been passed down from Nico's great-grandmother in France. Excited, Otogi guessed it was from the 1920s, a real treasure. Nico then realized that Otogi's heart raced not for her but because he was a vintage clothing enthusiast. Otogi began talking non-stop about technical terms Nico didn't understand, proudly telling her his jacket was from the 1940s. Nico quickly interrupted him to explain the situation with her earlier outfit, learning that Otogi hadn't seen it clearly due to the light reflection. The next moment, a trash bin came flying his way, a sign that Nico was not pleased with his lack of interest in her body. Living with such a beautiful girl without showing any reaction might make her think he found her annoying. Otogi admitted this, noting that his home had always been quiet with just him and his father, and Nico's presence, though noisy, wasn't bad at all. This comment diffused Nico's anger. Otogi then reassured her to wear what she liked, and his excitement was merely because their tastes in clothing were so similar. With the weather being nice, Otogi suggested they have lunch outside, and just like that, Nico was cheered up instantly. Today, Nico's mother sent many items, all of which were Nico's comics. Included was a letter addressed to Otogi. She began by thanking him for taking care of her daughter. She then explained that she was currently at a sanctuary in Japan, a place where witches settled to avoid witch hunts and where she was practicing her craft. To gain accurate information about an impending calamity, she planned to stay there to enhance her magical powers. For the time being, she had to entrust Nico to Otogi. Otogi grew increasingly frustrated as he read the letter. Despite being peers, why was he expected to act like Nico's mother? He firmly decided to follow Nico's mother's suggestion not to indulge Nico's mischief and to make her handle her own affairs. Nico planned to use magic to move the boxes herself. She cast a cloning spell, creating an exact, albeit half-sized, duplicate of herself. However, two smaller figures moving items weren't as efficient as one adult, and their intelligence was also halved. Thinking more clones would increase efficiency, she ended up with 4 quarter-sized Nikos. Otogi, unable to comment on the absurdity, noticed no improvement in efficiency. The chatter from 4 mouths only made things noisier. Eventually, he had to step in and move the boxes himself. Afterward, he told Nico to revert the clones, but the 4 mini Nikos wanted to play outside it longer. Otogi remembered he hadn't finished the letter. Nico's mother had received a new prophecy stating that dogs and raindrops would bring disaster. He didn't understand what it meant until he heard screaming outside. One of the Nikos was being chased by a dog, and the other 3 were crying. Otogi rushed out and held Nico as the dog's owner, with a loose leash, hurried over, smiling apologetically. Otogi's stern look frightened the owner away. The 4 Nikos then merged back into one full-sized Nico. In the chaos, Otogi got bitten by the dog. Feeling guilty, Nico hurried to make him coffee. Otogi opened a spell that came with the letter, explaining that if Nico avoided the disaster, the magical symbol would disappear, showing the calamity was still ongoing. As the symbol remained, the danger wasn't over. Otogi checked the weather forecast. It would rain in the evening. A mysterious person in a raincoat was standing across from their house. Despite the rain, Otogi and Nico went out to buy yokan, as Nico needed to replenish her magical energy quickly with red bean paste after using magic. Otogi didn't tell Nico about the disaster, not wanting her to worry. He was silently determined to protect her and suggested they share an umbrella to close their distance. Unexpectedly, they met a classmate on the way, but Nico declined the invitation to continue home with Otogi. However, they ended up not on their way home but in a park, and the rain stopped. Nico thought Otogi was about to confess his feelings, but he just asked her to hold the umbrella while he called out to someone following them. As he tried to figure out who it might be, Nico was thrilled, thinking it was a character from her favorite cartoon. Thinking of the prophecy about dogs and raindrops, Otogi confronted the person in the dog mask about their identity. The assailant attacked, revealing a police baton and the ability to manipulate wind. Otogi swiftly got behind the attacker, restraining his hands and pulling off the mask, revealing a blonde individual known to Nico. It was Kanshi, a Tengu living in the mountains where Nico trained, who provocatively challenged Otogi's role and introduced himself as a crow familiar sent to protect Nico.